It has been such a privilege getting to know all of our confirmation students, all of you both as unique individuals and as a unified whole. We've gone to Camp Wise together, where we conquered the ropes course and figured out how to perfectly balance every last one of us on a raised platform without tilting it over, which is a lot harder than it sounds. We sat around a table together over dinner here at B'nai Yeshurun to discuss anti-Semitism and your role as Jewish teens, which is exactly as hard as it sounds, living as you do in what is a scary and confusing time to be both a teen and a Jew. And together we even vandalized synagogue property. That's right, this class flew in a graffiti artist all the way from Israel who taught them how to spray paint whatever they wanted onto the youth lounge wall. And you know what this group decided to graffiti? A message of peace and solidarity with our Israeli brothers and sisters. This is a rowdy bunch. I'd keep my eye on them. We did one more thing together, though, which was to study Torah through the lens of improv comedy. Two things that seem totally different, because they are. Improv is the art of making things up without a script telling you how to act. Torah is our most sacred script, ancient guidance on how we as Jews ought to act. But both combine elements of the individual and the communal. Improv requires you to trust your instincts and dig deep for characters and quirks that uniquely arise from within you. You're not embodying somebody else's work. You're producing your own in real time without time to edit or judge your own unfiltered imagination. But while it's so uniquely personal, it's also a team sport. Improvisers have each other's backs, no different than a trust fall at camp or a ropes course or a balancing platform. Confirmation, finding your place within our tradition where you can proudly stand and firmly plant your flag, is also an individual and communal activity. It takes discovering who you are, your quirks, your unique Jewish character. And it takes sincere devotion to a larger team, your group, your ancient tribal identity. Confirmation, this journey you officially complete today, is about beginning to find your place among the Jewish people. Where do you stand? Where do you fit in? In so many ways, it's the focus of this week's Torah portion, Bamidbar, as we dive into the new book, Numbers. This week, the Israelites literally receive their marching orders from God. How are we meant to literally arrange ourselves in groups as we carry forward the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary, in the desert where God dwells among us? We read, Ish al diglo be'otot levet avotam, yachanu b'nei Yisrael, mineged saviv la'ohel mo'ed, yachanu. The Israelites shall camp, each man with his standard, under the banners of their ancestral house. They shall camp around the tent of meeting at a distance. So if you imagine it, you have the Mishkan, the portable tabernacle, in the center. Then surrounding it, you have the Levites. And surrounding the Levites, you have the 12 tribes divided into 4 groups of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, facing north, south, east, and west, forming a human square around the place where God comes and meets with us. How do they do it? We know that the Israelites don't make anything easy, and yet we're to believe that they all magically fell in line and pulled off a massive feat of organized choreography with precision and grace? Yes. And the key, according to our commentators, is the flags. Ibn Ezra, the 11th century Spanish commentator, writes, there were signs upon each and every standard. The banner of Reuben had the form of a person on it. There was an image of a lion on the standard of Judah, for Jacob had compared Judah to a lion. The banner of Ephraim had the image of an ox upon it. The flag of Dan had the image of an eagle. Each banner, each flag, has a tribal marker unique to its ancestral house. Many of these images come from the personalized blessings Jacob offers each of his 12 sons upon his deathbed. But the message of the flags is this: The world may at times feel like one chaotic throng, and you might feel lost in the shuffle, wandering in the desert, unsure of which way to turn. In those moments, Maxim, Madeline, Simon, Emily, Jordan, Joshua, Zachary, Bethany, Naomi, Ari, we hope you'll think back to your time with us at confirmation, which has always been about exploring who you are, both as individuals, deserving of your own personalized blessings like Jacob's children, and also as a shared ancestral house, a Jewish people united under one banner of Torah and shared history. Our charge to you today is that you continue to find your place among the Jewish people. Where do you stand? Where do you fit in? May you always honor and cherish your unique flag of self, waving it proudly with the collective banner of Jewish peoplehood as we strive together to advance, carry, and further the presence of God in the world. It won't always be easy. It's harder than it sounds. You're growing up in a world where it's already harder to wave your flag than it was for me when I was your age. And that's not fair. You deserve better. But it's also important to note that anti-Semitism, as we discussed together over dinner here, isn't new. It's one of the world's oldest hatreds and most dangerous, malicious desires. Which is why it's so interesting that Midrash, our rabbinic interpretive tradition, finds two hidden meanings in our verse about the tribal banners. Both have to do with jealous desire. One is destructive, the other productive. The destructive desire is jealousy, aroused in others when they encounter a people who are proudly and unabashedly themselves. It's a jealous longing for the kind of strength found in a people united by a strong sense of history and shared identity. The author Aviva Zornberg explains that Bilam, the prophet hired to curse the Jewish people, felt this jealousy when he saw the flags carried by the Israelites in the wilderness. Later in Numbers, we'll read, "And Bilam lifted up his eyes." Zornberg explains that he lifted up his eyes and saw their flags. She writes, Bilam looked at them in resentment because he could not touch them. He began speaking, "Who can touch these people who know their ancestors and their families?" Knowing who you are and where you come from will always be your greatest source of strength. And yet another thing we can all but confirm today is that the strength found in a people who know who they are tends to elicit jealousy. But don't give in to the world's base and dangerous desires. Instead, continue to fan the flame of those desires you hold most dear. The other kind of desire that the Midrash reads into our verse comes from the book of Torah called Song of Songs, where we read, V'diglo ahava, his banner of love was over me. In this reading, the desire of the flags is not about the jealous hatred elicited in others, but about the love that motivated us to unite under a common flag in the first place. Rabbi Bachia, who's the 13th century Spanish commentator, explains that when Torah was given to the Israelites at Mount Sinai, troops of angels descended upon the mountain, carrying their own banners as ministers of God's angelic host. The Israelites saw these banners, and they were filled with jealous desire. Not a destructive one, like Bilam, but a constructive one. Literally constructive because it motivated them to build the Mishkan, God's portable sanctuary, a place in this world where God could dwell among us, just like the angels dwelled among God up there, so we would have God dwell among us down here. Aviva Zornberg explains that jealousy, born of love, is all about this. She says that the moment the Israelites saw the angels' flags, they were filled with a desire, quote, to be significant, to belong, to fit harmoniously. God grants the human wish for an angelic transparency of meaning, The flags over the camp of Israel can be seen then as expressions of an intimate desire to hold God at the center of one's being, just like the Mishkan is carried at the center of the Israelites' marching formation. She concludes, quote, "To be the children of Abraham is to remain connected, not to be alienated, to acknowledge one's inmost affiliation. It is a choice." Confirmation is a choice you've made to learn more about your ancestral house and tribal identity as part of the Jewish people. And that's a heavenly pursuit, one that mimics the angels, to know who you are, where you come from, and who you'd like best to serve. It's why the images on the tribal flags, a human, a lion, an ox, an eagle, going back to the tribal flags and their markers, those figures also happen to be how the prophet Ezekiel describes the four-sided face of angels. This is how we mimic, how we seek to mimic the angels here on earth. So we started off by finding your parents, your grandparents, your loved ones, finding your particular tribal flag and place in this loving crowd. And we recited Shehechianu. Mazel Tov once again to all of our confirmation students and families on reaching this momentous occasion and milestone. May you continue to deepen your connection and desire to strengthen your affiliation with this community. May you continue to find your place among the Jewish people and in this world. And may you always carry forth your banner, individual and community, with joy and with pride. And a happy Pride Month to all, and a Shabbat Shalom.